I'm CJ Hero. Welcome to the program. On tonight's headlines.
Europe is scrambling to thrash out a coordinated response to a new strain of the coronavirus, which has prompted an international suspension of travel links with the UK.
The Philippine government is eyeing to sign a deal for the procurement of another 20 million doses of AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine by the end of December.
Taiwan reports its first local coronavirus transmission, blaming a foreign pilot for ending 253 days of being virus-free.
And the coronavirus delayed Tokyo Olympics will cost at least 1.64 trillion yen, organizers said, unveiling a final budget swollen by the unprecedented postponement of a raft of pandemic measures.
Europe is scrambling to thrash out a coordinated response to a new strain of the coronavirus, which has prompted an international suspension of travel links with the UK. With travelers in Europe facing a nightmare holiday season, EU ambassadors were to meet Tuesday to try to nail down a unified approach and work out how to eventually lift the border restrictions with Britain, including by imposing a requirement for tests on all arrivals. More than 24 countries from India to Argentina suspended flight from the UK, offering a bleak reminder that the pandemic is far from over. Concern over the mutated strains sent European stocks, oil prices, and the British pound plunging, and transport changes unleashed chaos for travelers and truckers ahead of the holidays. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson held a crisis meeting after France announced a 48-hour blockade on both people and freight, just as companies are racing to shift merchandise before Britain finally quits EU trade structures on January 1.
And of course, across the channel to unblock the flow of trade as fast as possible. And the government at all levels is communicating with our friends in Paris. I've just spoken to President Macron. We had a very good call, and we both understand each other's positions and want to resolve these problems as fast as possible. Understand your concerns, and I hope everybody can see that as soon as we were briefed in UK government on the fast transmissibility of this new strain at, I think, 3:15 on Friday afternoon, we lodged all the necessary information with the World Health Organization, and we took prompt and decisive action the very next day to curb the spread of the new variant within the UK.
The co-founder of BioNTech said it was highly likely that its vaccine against the coronavirus works against the mutated strain detected in Britain, but it could also adapt a vaccine if necessary in 6 weeks. Watch this.
The beauty of the messenger RNA technology is that we can directly start to engineer a vaccine which completely mimics this new mutation, and we could be able to provide a new vaccine technically within 6 weeks. So that means a vaccine which contains this information. Of course, this
Sahin said the variant detected in Britain has 9 mutations rather than just 1, as is usually common. Nevertheless, he voiced confidence that the vaccine developed by Pfizer would be efficient because it contains more than 1,000 amino acids and only 9 of them have changed. So that means 99% of the protein is still the same. He said tests are being run on the variant with results expected in 2 weeks.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said reports of the new variants of the COVID-19 virus in South Africa and the United Kingdom are natural and expected. He also said there's no evidence so far that it is more likely to cause severe disease or death. Let's listen in.
In the past few days, there have been reports of new variants of the COVID-19 virus in South Africa and the United Kingdom. Viruses mutate over time. That's natural and expected. The UK has reported that this new variant transmits more easily, but there is no evidence so far that it's more likely to cause severe disease or mortality. WHO is working with scientists to understand how these generic changes affect how the virus behaves. The bottom line is that we need to suppress transmission of all SARS-CoV-2 viruses as quickly as we can. The more we allow it to spread, the more opportunity it has to change.
Very well, please.
Okay. No, I think Maria says it all, but I think it's important maybe just to re-emphasize a couple of things. There's zero evidence at this point that there's any increase in severity associated with this disease. Clearly, work is ongoing to look at transmission and the increased rates of transmission and how much of that is attributable to this particular variant. We've seen many variants emerge over the last number of months, and some have been successful, some have not been as successful as establishing themselves as part of the driving force of COVID. What no variant has done yet is establish itself as having any higher level of severity or evading our diagnostics or hiding from vaccines or the effectiveness of vaccines. And
now, all viruses mutate, some more rapidly than others. We have one example, the influenza virus, which mutates quite rapidly and requires every year the vaccine strain actually to be reviewed and revised based on the circulating influenza strains prevalent that year. So that's one example of a viral vaccine that's updated every year with the current information. Now, the SARS-CoV-2 virus is mutating at a much slower rate than the influenza virus. And so far, even though we've seen a number of changes, a number of mutations, none has made a significant impact on either the susceptibility of the virus to any of the currently used therapeutics, drugs, or the vaccines under development.
The UK strain has also been detected in small numbers in Australia, Denmark, and the Netherlands, according to the WHO. Another variant with similar genetic mutations has been linked to widespread transmission in South Africa.
In response to travel and trade restrictions imposed on the UK following the discovery of a new highly infectious strain of the coronavirus, Britain's postal service has temporarily suspended deliveries of packages and letters to Europe, with the exception of the Republic of Ireland. Britain had looked to have turned the corner in its attempt to quell the virus with the rollout of a vaccine and falling infection rates. But the emergence of the new strain has thrown the government's plans into disarray. The government had initially announced an easing of restrictions to allow families to meet over Christmas, but changed its plans after it was presented last week with a dire analysis of the new strain that is running rampant across southeast England. The UK government's chief scientific advisor Patrick Fallon said at the Monday press conference that transmission of the new variant of COVID had clearly substantially increased.
And the Indian state of Maharashtra has imposed a night curfew in cities, including the country's financial hub, Mumbai, because of fears about the new coronavirus strain from Britain, according to the local government. In addition, Mumbai airport said Tuesday that all air passengers from anywhere in Europe or the Middle East will have to go into institutional quarantine upon arrival and then be tested. The announcements come even though daily numbers of new coronavirus infections has fallen sharply in India in recent weeks, including in Maharashtra, whose capital, Mumbai, is home to one of Asia's biggest slums. India is yet to confirm any cases of the new strain. The Maharashtra government said that the night curfew beginning on Tuesday would last until January 5, and the restrictions will put a dampen on New Year's celebrations in Mumbai and elsewhere in the western state of around 120 million people. On Monday, India also joined other countries in suspending all flights from Britain starting from Tuesday night till December 31.
Meanwhile, Germany on Tuesday extended a ban on arrivals from Britain, Northern Ireland, and South Africa until January 6 after a new, more infectious coronavirus strain appeared in the countries. The transport ban covers passenger traffic by train, bus, ship, and flights directly from these countries, the health ministry said in a statement. The order covers the period from December 22nd of this year until January 6 next year. It added that people who have valid residency permits for Germany could return from January 1st. The ministry said that travelers who arrived from the affected countries or who spent time there in the last 10 days would be required to be tested for the coronavirus. Health Minister Jens Spahn said the entry ban from Britain, Northern Ireland, and South Africa is a precautionary measure until they know more about the reported coronavirus mutations in those countries.
Meanwhile, the United States surpassed 18 million reported COVID cases on Monday. Figures from Johns Hopkins University showed as the virus surges nationwide, the U.S. has the world's highest absolute number of cases, as well as the most deaths related to the virus, according to the figures. It had a total of 18,006,061 reported cases on Monday evening and more than 319,000 deaths. The country began administering vaccines a week ago and has given approval to immunizations developed by Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna. States and cities have imposed varying levels of restrictions in a bid to slow the virus spread.
National Policy Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer and Vaccine Czar, Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. said the government is eyeing to sign a deal for the procurement of another 20 million doses of AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine by the end of December. Let's watch this.
Hindi po tayo bitiwan ng AstraZeneca. At baka this coming next week, either December 28 or 29, inaantay lang po namin yung Ministry of Health Regulatory Authorization ng UK at pwede na po namin pirmahan yung kontrata. Ito naman po ay 20 million doses at 10 million doses for LGU at saka po sa ating private sector. So all in all po, kung magkakaroon po tayo ng pirmahan this coming month, meron po tayong 60 million for the second quarter at saka third quarter po.
A coronavirus outbreak linked to a seafood market in Thailand surpassed 1,000 cases today as authorities weighed whether to introduce a wider lockdown. Thailand has been on tenterhooks since Thursday following the positive virus test of a 67-year-old prawn seller from Mahachai Market, Samut Sakhon Province, about 40 minutes southwest of Bangkok. As of early Tuesday morning, there were 1,063 confirmed positive cases out of 6,156 tested, a major outbreak for a country which previously had 4,300 infections. The majority of the new cases are workers from Myanmar who toil on shrimp boats and in processing factories linked to the multi-billion-dollar Thai seafood industry. And we'll take a short break. Eagle News will be right back. Stay tuned.
Portion is brought to you by Canreef Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Services offered: supply and installation of elevators, escalators, air conditioners, ventilators, jet towel hand dryers, generators, access control system, factory automation and modernization. For more info, please contact Ami Kanke at 0915-263-7198 or 0998-900-3224.
To date, SMC infrastructure remains at the forefront of Boracay Airport's modernization. The current and long-term developments include the construction of an international airport passenger terminal and the extension of the existing runway to better serve bigger aircrafts, providing tourists with world-class access to this slice of paradise.
Welcome back to the news. Taiwan reported its first local coronavirus transmission on Tuesday, blaming a foreign pilot for ending 253 days of being virus-free. Health authorities said a woman in her 30s had tested positive after contact with a pilot, a New Zealander working for a Taiwan airline. Health Minister Chen Shih-chung said the pilot had failed to truthfully declare his contacts and activities to authorities once he had been confirmed as a carrier. Authorities said the pilot, who faces a fine of up to $10,600, visited several establishments, including a department store. The vast majority of arrivals have to quarantine for 2 weeks and must test negative, a measure which, until Tuesday, had successfully kept any carriers from introducing the virus to the local community. Pilots, however, currently undergo a less strict 3 days of self-quarantine after each overseas trip, and the new case has already sparked debate about whether those measures should be tightened.
Meanwhile, Singapore received Asia's first delivery of the Pfizer BioNTech coronavirus vaccine on Monday, capping what the city-state's premier said had been a long and arduous year spent fighting the pandemic. The trade and finance hub last week joined a handful of other countries around the world, including Britain and the U.S., which have approved the jab. It plans to inoculate its 5.7 million people by the third quarter next year, with priority given to health workers, the elderly, and the medically vulnerable. Delighted to see the first shipment of vaccines arrive in Singapore, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong wrote on Facebook after a Singapore Airlines flight carrying the vaccines landed from Belgium. Vaccination in Singapore will be voluntary, but the Prime Minister has strongly encouraged people to take part in the campaign. The Pfizer vaccine requires a 2-shot treatment and must be kept at temperatures below minus 70 degrees Celsius to work effectively. Transportation Minister Ang Yi-kung said a local facility was producing 4 tons of dry ice each day to properly refrigerate the goods. Singapore will further ease social distancing restrictions from December 28 after weeks of barely any local coronavirus infections.
Malaysian Health Minister Adam Baba said Malaysia will obtain 6.4 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine from British-Swedish multinational pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca. Last week, Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin said that the government is planning to buy more COVID-19 vaccines to immunize as many as 80% of the population. The government is also in final negotiations with China's Sinovac, CanSino Biologics, and Russia's Gamaleya Research Institute. He said the country expects to spend $504.4 million on the shots. Malaysia is struggling to stem a fresh wave of cases that emerged in September and threatens a nascent economic recovery. Daily infections hit a record 2,234 on December 10, with cases erupting at facilities of companies including Top Glove Corporation and Carex BHD. The first 1 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine will be rolled out as early as February, according to him, adding that he would be among the first Malaysians to get the shot to convince the people of its safety.
In Myanmar, the country closed off public gardens, parks, and a lake in its biggest city, Yangon, hoping to prevent a spike in COVID cases during year-end holidays. City officials are trying to protect recent gains in containing the
launching the country's vaccine program. Watch this.
Mr. Ryan, do you expect that teachers will have access to the vaccine? And if so, do you think that moves the timetable to get students back to class?
If you think it doesn't matter, you think I need one, I'll put it on. Okay. I'm doing this to demonstrate that people should be prepared when it's available to take the vaccine. There's nothing to worry about. I'm looking forward to the second shot. So is Jill. She's had her shot earlier today. She loves shots, I know. The administration deserves some credit getting this off the ground with Operation Warp Speed.
President Duterte late Monday night condemned the brutal death of a mother and son in Tarlac in the hands of a policeman, saying the latter should rot in jail. In a taped speech, the president said that he was shocked after watching the viral video of the Tarlac shooting incident shown to him by Senator Bongo. He described the cop as crazy, wondering how he passed his neuropsychiatric examinations, which is required of police applicants. Take a look.
Na hindi ikulong ninyo yun. Huwag ninyo bitawan yung yawa na yan. I'd like to call the PNP. Be sure that he is detained. He should not be allowed to go out. Kasi serious offense yan. There's no bail. So hindi makabail yan. So diretso-diretso na yan. Isa lang itong klaseng pulis na to. May sakit ito sa utak. Tupak. And I'm just wondering why he was able to nakalusot sa neuro. You could detect a person by the way he answers in mga test sa neuro. Ayun. Di ba sinabi ko, you do it right, I'm with you. You do it wrong, and there will be hell to pay. Yun ang sinabi ko sa aking sona. Ang akin dito, ulitin ko, do your duty, enforce the law. Your actions must be in accordance with the law. You do not follow the law, mag-salvage ka, magpatay ka dyan, then I'm sorry. That is not part of the agreement of how we should do our work. He should not be allowed to go out because double murder yun eh. Double murder is a serious offense, a grave offense. So from the time you are arrested up to the time that you are hailed to court to answer for the death of those two persons, innocent ones, walang bail ka. So, pag nahuli ka, diretso-diretso na yan. And I don't think that you can escape the rigors of justice because nakuha sa TV, pati ako napanganga. Kawala-walang kwenta. I do not like oppression. Usually kasi itong police, you tend to exhibit your authority even in matters not connected with police work. Yung mga away-away. Karamihan niya mga police yan, nagbinubugbog yung asawa. So kung kayong nabinubugbog ng asawa ninyo na police, pumunta lang kayo sa Malacanang, kaya ipatawag ko yung pulis, bugbugin ko yan sa harap mo. Para magdemanda, ihulog ko na lang sa Pasig.
Malacanang explained that factual elements of police senior Master Sgt Janel Luezka's case manifests that he cannot invoke an insanity plea just to exempt himself from any criminal liability. Watch this.
Para naman itong crime law 2 class, no? Tinuro ko lang yan siguro mga 3 beses, no? So hindi ko memoryado. Pero yung insanity na tinatawag na exempting circumstance o yung depensa para hindi magkaroon ng pananagutan, dapat wala pong consent. Wala talagang pag-iisip na hindi na niya alam kung anong tama at mali. Yun po yung test dyan. Pero kung siya ay conscious kung anong tama at mali at ginawa pa rin niya, hindi po pwedeng ma-invoke yan. Of course, any accuse can invoke that, pero kumukuha po tayo ng mga expert witnesses, ng mga psychiatrists na nag-i-examine para magbigay ng expert testimony kung talagang baliw at walang konsepto kung anong tama ang mali. Pero pagdating naman po dito, siya ay isang pulis, siya ay isang sumusweldo na pulis, nakita naman natin na ang kanilang pinag-aawayan ay right of way, siguro alam naman niya na talagang mali na gamitin ng baril ng gobyerno para patayin yung kalaban niya sa isang property dispute. Hindi po niya magagamit yung depensa.
Eagle News will be right back. Don't go away.
This portion is brought to you by RJK Services Manpower Agency Corporation.
Patapos na po ang taon, pero hindi pa rin kami tapos sa pagbibigay ng maaaksyong dance move dito sa PNG.
At ngayong linggo, mas matinding dance showdown ang inyong matutunghayan because we will bring you the 4th monthly finals.
Yes, dito lang yan sa mas pinatinding biggest talent competition on Philippine TV and online. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 Dance Edition!
Welcome back. The UK government borrowing continued to soar in November on emergency action to support the virus-hit economy, which nevertheless rebounded stronger than expected in the third quarter, according to official data shown on Tuesday. Government borrowing last month hit £31.6 billion, a record for November, taking public sector net debt to £2.1 trillion, according to the Office for National Statistics. Separate data showed the UK economy bounced back by an all-time high, 16% in the July to September period, up from an initial reading of 15.5% as the country exited the first lockdown. British economic output, however, remains 8.6% below the level of 1 year ago.
U.S. lawmakers on Monday approved a $900 billion relief package for the world's biggest economy that will provide a long-sought boost for millions of Americans and businesses battered by the coronavirus pandemic. Overwhelming approval in the Senate and House of Representatives clears the way for the legislation to be sent to the President to be signed into law. The American people can rest assured that more help is on the way immediately, Republican Senate Leader Mitch McConnell said on Twitter. The deal will spare millions of jobless workers who were days away from seeing their unemployment benefits expire and provide a new round of cash payouts. Small businesses will benefit from more government grants, while the package also includes rental assistance and help to families facing eviction. The massive package is a part of a $2.3 trillion, almost 5,600-page Corona Bus bill that includes a so-called omnibus bill to fund the government for the coming year. The measure will include a new round of pandemic relief payments, and U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said the $600 checks will go out as early as next week. That amounts to $2,400 for a family of 4, so much needed relief just in time for the holidays, he said on Monday on CNBC.
And the first direct commercial flight between Israel and Morocco took off from Tel Aviv on Tuesday in a symbolic trip after the countries reached a U.S. brokered deal to normalize ties. The El Al flight with U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law and advisor Jared Kushner and Israeli National Security Advisor Meir Ben Shabbat on board was headed to Rabat, where Moroccan and Israeli officials were due to sign a series of agreements. Take a look.
My hope is that this flight today to Morocco will create the same amount of momentum, as there's so much shared history and culture between Israel and Morocco, and the people are dying to get to know each other, to be together, and to share culture and understanding.
Now, the trip aims to showcase the achievements of the Trump administration in the Middle East policy, weeks before Trump is replaced at the White House by President-elect Joe Biden. Morocco became the third Arab state this year after the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain to normalize ties with Israel under U.S. brokered deals, while Sudan has pledged to follow suit. As part of the Morocco-Israeli deal, President Trump fulfilled a decades-old goal of Morocco by backing its contested sovereignty in Western Sahara. The move infuriated the Algerian-backed pro-independence Polisario Front, which controls about one-fifth of the desert territory that was once a Spanish colony. Negotiations leading to Morocco's resumption of ties with Israel included an agreement to open a U.S. consulate in Western Sahara and U.S. investment pledges with Moroccan media described as colossal. At the same time, Israel and Morocco are due to reopen diplomatic offices and activate economic cooperation between them. Morocco closed its liaison office in Tel Aviv in 2000 at the start of the Second Palestinian Intifada, or uprising.
The world's two biggest cocoa suppliers, Ivory Coast and Ghana, have taken a tussle with chocolate multinationals to the battlefield of public opinion. In an unprecedented move, the cocoa boards of the two West African countries have publicly accused U.S. chocolate giants Mars and Hershey of sidestepping a deal designed to shore up income for poor farmers. Both companies deny the charges. At stake is a 2019 arrangement called the Living Income Differential, or LID, under which multinationals pay a premium of $400 above market price for each ton of cocoa, the raw material for chocolate. In a joint statement or letter on Monday, Ivory Coast's Coffee Cocoa Council, or CCC, and the Ghana Cocoa Board, or Cocoa Bod, accused Hershey of reportedly making a large purchase of cocoa on the futures market. The move, they charged, clearly indicates your intention to avoid paying the living income differential. The two boards said they had been left with no choice but to cancel all sustainability programs with which your company is involved. These schemes certify that the chocolate is ethically produced, which lets the firms to embellish their image with consumers. Production must avoid deforestation and be free of child labor. In a separate statement, the CCC and Cocoa Bod accused Mars of modifying its cocoa butter procurement processes to avoid paying the LID, a scheme supported by the campaign group Fairtrade. The CCC and Cocoa Bod condemned what they called Hershey's and Mars's clear breach of faith in the LID scheme. Let's listen in.
Cocoa farming is very hard work, and it's involved in a lot of expensive labor costs, farm maintenance, buying chemicals. There are a lot of things that go into it. So the price they are giving now, that's 660 to us. We just it's just small. We want more than that. So if somebody is buying less than that, then that person is killing us. We want higher price than this.
Cocoa farming is not having a future because of the price and how they give out the price from the market side. It's not right for us. We don't like it. You can see that cocoa future is so very poor. It's so very poor. It's so very poor. We don't like it. We want the government to just increase everything for us because we spend time and our energy mostly in the side of cocoa business. But after all, we get nothing.
Apple plans to build a self-driving car for consumers and is targeting 2024 to produce that vehicle, according to Reuters. Now, Reuters said the company is developing its own battery technology that could reduce the cost of power packs and extend the vehicle's range. It also cited unidentified people familiar with the matter. As for the car's battery, Apple plans to use a unique mono-cell design that bulks up the individual cells in the battery and frees up space inside the pack, one of the people said. It also remains unclear, though, who would assemble an Apple-branded car, but sources have said they expect the company to rely on a manufacturing partner to build vehicles. An Apple spokesman declined to comment. Eagle News will be right back. Stay tuned.
This portion is brought to you by Kubert, an expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Kubert, your ultimate NEPs and air conditioning solutions.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Climate change, government security lockdowns, and the pandemic have all played a role in dampening production of saffron, once a source of fortune for thousands of families growing the world's priciest spice in Indian-administered Kashmir. Watch this.
In other news, the creators of a lab-grown chicken meat say it can help reduce the environmental damage involved in human production after it made a historic debut at a Singapore restaurant Saturday in a culinary first. Take a look.
We take a sample from a living chicken. This current cell line has been taken from a chicken named Ian, who lives in California. He's still living to this day. We didn't have to kill any animals to produce this chicken. So we took just a very simple sample from one of his feathers. We no longer have to, clear cut forests to make land for, for farms. We don't have to, grow the food to feed the chickens. We don't have to water the chickens. We don't have to worry about the waste that we receive from the chickens. And we're just growing pure clean meat. So we have no waste, and the footprint is so much smaller. We could, if we took a building this size and filled it with 20,000 liter bioreactors, we could feed Asia. We want this to be a food that everybody can eat. And we want to be able to supply. We want to be able to supply the world. It's not going to just happen, on our own. I think this is going to be a really great kind of starting point for a lot of other companies to also step up and start producing as well. And it's really exciting because this is the beginning, and I think it's really going to take off pretty quickly.
I believe that we are at the forefront of something that is going to fundamentally change the way we grow our food and feed ourselves. And I think we're going to look back at this particular time in history, and we're going to say, yeah, that was the beginning of something incredibly special, and look where we are now. So with this product, my expectation was actually, 50%. And when I tasted it on Saturday, it by far exceeded my expectation. And I would wager that in a blind taste testing, I wouldn't know the difference. The way it was cooked, the way it was served, I would have, if you told me that was, a chicken, I would have wholeheartedly believed it and enjoyed it. When you get this generation behind that kind of a movement, I think it's unstoppable. I mean, that's the beauty of kids today, is they have incredibly strong values.
Demand for sustainable meat alternatives is rising due to growing concerns from consumers about the environment and animal welfare, but other products on the market are plant-based. Meat consumption is projected to increase more than 70% by 2050, and lab-grown alternatives have a role to play in ensuring a secure food supply.
The NBA season kicks off tomorrow morning, where Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors face Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets. We have Tenny Sumage for that news. Tenny.
Thanks, CJ. We'll see two of NBA's superstars back in the court. Steph Curry and Kevin Durant face off later in about 11 hours. And we'll hear from the superstars on the excitement of the new season.
It's going to be great. I mean, knowing he's coming back from his injury, and you want to see everybody healthy. You want to see everybody able to play, especially what he's capable of doing on the court. But at the end of the day, like we all say, it is just another game. It is our first regular season game, so there's a lot of excitement just around being back in the action. It'll be cool to see him out there. And
I feel like each game is important to me. And it's no more of importance because I'm playing against my old teammates, and I just feel like the game of basketball is going to have me on that level anyway, and it's going to be good to see some of my old teammates, good to play against them, good to see some of the people I work with in my time in Golden State. But nothing more than that. The game of basketball is always going to have me on that level of wanting to play extremely hard every time I'm out there.
We'll have more on the Nets and Warriors game later on Eagle News. In New York, Tenny Sumagi, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thank you so much, Tenny. We are going to be very excited for your updates tomorrow.
All right, the coronavirus delayed Tokyo Olympics will cost at least 1.64 trillion yen or $15.9 billion according to organizers, unveiling a final budget swollen by the unprecedented postponement and a raft of pandemic measures. Take a look.
全体の経費を発表いたしましたけれども、それでこれを高いと見るのかどう見るのかというのはいろいろな見方があるかと思います。 私は今までも何度か申し上げたんですけれども、これはコストという面とですね、やっぱり投資という面と両方あるんだろうと思います。すべて、費用だと、そういうことだけで見ると、これは問題を十分に理解できないわけで、その中でポジティブな投資という面が相当あるということであります。コロナというこういう世界的規模のイベントを開催する。これが実現すればですね、これはコロナとともに生活するということがこれからは十分考えられるわけでございますけれども、それの一つのスタンダードを示すと、ロールモデルを示すという意味でですね、意義のあることではないかというふうに思います。
The extra costs, up 294 billion yen or 2.8 billion US dollars from figures released a year ago, come as officials work to build enthusiasm for the first games postponed in peacetime. A poll last week showed that a majority of Japanese oppose holding the Tokyo Games next year, favoring a further delay or outright cancellation of the massive event. And the latest budget could make the Tokyo Games the most expensive Summer Olympics in history. A study published earlier this year by Oxford University warned that the Tokyo Games could become the most expensive Summer Olympics ever. The study calculated that the 2012 London Games was the most costly to date, with $14.96 billion price tag eclipsed only by the eye-watering $21.89 billion spent on the Sochi Winter Games back in 2014.
A Frenchman on Saturday set a world record for sitting immersed in ice cubes for the longest time, enduring the extreme challenge to raise money for childhood cancers. The 34-year-old health worker remained buried up to his neck in ice in a plexiglass cabin for 2 hours, 35 minutes and 43 seconds, breaking the previous record by 40 minutes in the northern French town of Waterloo. Watch this.
Mon job est fait, quoi. Moi, j'ai montré que c'était là et à 5, 10 ou un quart d'heure près, peu importe, ce qui est essentiel, c'était de montrer qu'on pouvait prendre le contrôle de son cerveau et que du coup, on pouvait prendre le contrôle de choses qui paraissaient hors de contrôle, indépendamment de sa spiritualité et de ses croyances. Déjà, il y a eu un élément déclencheur, qui est ma rencontre avec Augustine, qui est décédée d'une tumeur du tronc cérébral, une manière foudroyante, qui a provoqué chez moi beaucoup de colère. Et clairement, ça a été le point déclencheur. Inévitablement, il y a un cheminement qui est personnel, qui a été finalement l'évacuation de cette colère au fur et à mesure de l'entraînement qui a duré 2 ans.
The solar system's 2 biggest planets, Jupiter and Saturn, came within planetary kissing range in Monday's evening sky, an intimacy that will not occur again until 2080. This great conjunction, as it's known to astronomers, occurred fortuitously on the winter solstice for those in the northern hemisphere and the beginning of summer in the global south. Take a look.
Some questions in the chat of when the conjunction is going to happen. It's happening ongoing. Right now, today is when the planets appear closest together. So this is sort of the peak of the conjunction, the maximum point of it. But sunset, a couple hours immediately right after sunset, doesn't particularly matter where you are. You don't have to be in Arizona or anywhere else. Just shortly after sunset for the next couple of weeks before the planets start to get a little bit too close to the sun.
The two planets were, in fact, more than 730 million kilometers apart. But because of their alignment in relation to Earth, they appeared to be closer to each other than at any time in almost 400 years. Optimal conjunction took place at 1822 GMT. The best viewing conditions on Monday were in clear skies and close to the equator, while people in Western Europe and along a vast swathe of Africa had to train their sight to the southwest. The last time Jupiter and Saturn nuzzled up this close was in 1623. But weather conditions in regions where the reunion could be seen blocked the view. Visibility was apparently better the time before that during the Middle Ages on March 4, 1226 to be precise. Jupiter, which is the larger planet, takes 12 years to revolve around the sun, while Saturn takes 29 years. Every 20 years or so, they appear to observers on Earth to come closer to each other. Cheek to cheek.
Yeah, there are a lot of good pictures online.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I am CJ Hero. Join us again tomorrow.
And at the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. I'm Alma Angeles, and
we live in interesting times.